Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the cinema. This is the Cinemacast podcast right here on our YouTube channel, Arrow Entertainment. If you guys enjoy our content on this channel, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below to show some love and support for the channel. Also, if you guys want to check out our other podcast and our gaming streams as well, links for our other platforms, Twitch and Kick, are down below in the description section, as well as our Discord channel. Now, if you are on Discord and you want to keep up to date with updates on further streams, content, and stuff, as well as meeting other people, and if you're into anime, if you're into movies, video games, and such, come on over to our Discord server today. Link for that is down below. So, today's feature is another M. Night Shyamalan feature. Trap, starring, and it's amazing how well he aged over the last 20 some years. Josh Hartnett, oh my god, over 25 years. You know, this guy has been active for over 25 years. Over 25 years. His first film was Halloween H2O. How many of y'all seen that? Did y'all go to movie theaters to see that? Did y'all watch it when it came out on home video? Or did you watch it like I did on pay-per-view? Yes, remember pay-per-view? Oh god, depending on your cable service growing up, if your family was, well, I don't want to say my family was wealthy enough, but we paid for cable. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't that expensive, really. I don't even know what it was. Well, nowadays you got services like Verizon where you can get all in one: internet, cable, telephone for a package deal of under $150 or so, something like that. I don't know what the numbers are, but yeah, back in the day we had pay-per-view, and all it was these preview channels that would show trailers, at home movie trailers for certain movies that are airing at certain times, and all you would have to do is call the number on your screen for whatever channel you're watching, and it goes directly to your phone bill. It goes to your phone bill. That's how it's paid. It goes to your phone bill. You don't pay with credit card or anything. It's just added to your phone bill, and you would rent a movie for like $3.95 or $4.95 for one viewing. Or sometimes they'll have a marathon of one movie. You can get the whole fucking day if you wanted to, and then boom, movie pops up on screen. That's how I first started watching Halloween H2O back in the day. But yeah, Josh Hartnett, he's been in a slew of movies over the last 25 years. Some of them were horror related, some science fiction, a lot of romantic comedies and dramas, and some thrillers. Just like back in the day, back in high school for me, you know, not only did we watch Halloween H2O, but we also had the sci-fi horror classic, The Faculty. And it was about aliens that, you know, invaded, you know, the small town, and it's everything takes place at this high school and within this small town, and this group of teenagers, you know, this group of kids, you know, the friends, and they know something's wrong. They know something's up, and there's a big twist in the end as to who is the main extraterrestrial in the movie and all. So it was a really good movie for the time. You know, whether you like it or hate it, it was good for what it was. And just growing up, you know, just watching his movies, you know, I only seen just a handful of his movies, like those two, 30 Days a Night and such. And I will say, to a lot of people, Josh Hartnett is one of those underrated actors. Very underrated, depending on what movie he's playing in. For me, it's either the thriller movies that he's in, the action thrillers, the drama thrillers, or even the sci-fi or the well, in this case, this movie right here is considered a psychological thriller movie. Some people might call it a horror movie. Nah, it doesn't have the basis to be a horror movie. It's a psychological thriller. And of course, as I stated, this movie is directed, written, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan. God, the dude's 54 years old. He's got a lot of great movies under his belt. He really does. Like, if I look at, you know, basically all the stuff that he has. Now, he has a lot of movies under his belt since 1992. I've never seen the movie Praying with Anger. That was his first. It was a student film that he directed, written, and produced. The movie Wide Awake, which came out in '98. I know nothing about that, but I do know about the movie She's All That. Were you in high school or middle school around that time, 1999, when this movie came out? You know, Rachel Lee Cook, Freddie Prinze Jr., and that was like the heartthrob for a lot of teenage girls back in the day. Apparently, you know, M. Night Shyamalan wrote the screenplay for that movie. Did not even know that. And yes, that is one of the guilty pleasures that I have from back in high school. You know, it's a teen romantic comedy. And I know some movies like that are mostly for like girls. You know, girls will get together for a weekend and watch those kind of movies and all. But I'm like, no, I've seen it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I really did. But I think the first one that really take mainstream for M. Night Shyamalan was The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis. That was another psychological thriller movie. Some people may call it a horror movie because it does have some minor horror elements of the paranormal in it. And wouldn't you know, this was released by, I believe it was released by Touchstone Pictures at the time, but now they're calling it the Buena Vista Pictures, which is actually makes this movie. Oh, it was Hollywood Pictures. Okay, I thought it was Touchstone. I thought it was Touchstone, but apparently it was Hollywood Pictures. But yeah, that basically makes this movie a Disney movie. So yeah, this The Sixth Sense is a Disney movie. Like, wrap that around your head for a minute. You know, Hollywood Pictures, Touchstone, they're subsidiaries of Buena Vista, which is a subsidiary or secondary to Disney. So yeah, that makes this movie a Disney movie. Wow. And Disney's not, you know, they weren't known to make movies like that. You know, well, you would think growing up that, you know, they weren't into making movies like that, you know, horror movies and such. But then again, you know, it's a whole other story for a whole other time, you know. But yeah, The Sixth Sense, it took the world by storm. It was parodied, it was memed all around, but it was still a good movie. It was a really good performance for Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment at the time. I don't even think he's still making movies though. But then there was other movies that came out after The Sixth Sense. Now he was a writer. Okay, M. Night Shyamalan was a writer for a children's movie back in 1999, and I didn't even know it looking into his Wikipedia for it. But M. Night Shyamalan wrote the screenplay for the movie Stuart Little. Remember that movie? That's like one of those forgotten children's movies back in the day. Stuart Little, you know, with Gina Davis and Michael J. Fox, who voiced the little rat Stuart. I've seen that so long ago. I forgot most. I remember like some of it, but I just forgot most of how it went. I only watched it twice. But then 2000 hit, and M. Night Shyamalan, he really exploded into Hollywood and all, with a lot of great movies that came out since 2000. Like, okay, Unbreakable with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, which is a superhero thriller film. If you have not seen it, I recommend it. It's really good. Why would I recommend Unbreakable? Because about 16 years later, a little movie that was written, directed, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan called Split came out, starring James McAvoy. Remember that movie? Split, where the guy had multiple personalities and he kidnapped several women and hid them in an underground bunker somewhere. Yeah. So Split is actually a sequel to the movie Unbreakable. And then, of course, 3 years later, you got the movie Glass, where Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson reprised their role from Unbreakable. So they all get together for this movie. And they're all, Split is considered a psychological thriller. You wouldn't even think it had any ties with the movie Unbreakable. But then Glass comes out, and now it's considered a thriller, superhero thriller film, not really horror. But yeah, he had a lot of great movies under his belt that he had directed, including movies like the Signs movie with Mel Gibson, 2002. I remember going to theaters with my ex to see that, and I don't want to say I was blown away by the movie, but I will say it was really good. It was a really good Mel Gibson film. And it had two subtle plots going on at the same time in the movie. You had the main plot. Well, I guess it's considered a main plot, hence the name of the movie, where aliens are invading Earth, and one of the main spots where crop circles are popping up is this guy's farmland. But then there's the other plot, which I think is more of a forefront plot for the movie, where he plays a priest who lost his faith in God because his wife died, and he's struggling with this while living with his 2 children and his brother, played by Joaquin Phoenix. And while he's going through these struggles in life, this whole extraterrestrial, aliens invading Earth plot comes in, and he's dealing with all this all at once. So there's 2 separate plots going on with that movie. And I really think, with the acting in the movie, the direction that it took with how everything fell into place, and it was just more than just a aliens invading Earth type movie. I felt it was more than that, but it was an amazing movie. And then you got movies like The Village that came out, which wasn't too much on par. I actually fell asleep through that movie. And you have movies like Lady in the Water, The Happening, Devil that came out in 2010, everything taking place in an elevator. And you had movies like Old in 2021, 2 years later, Knock at the Cabin with Dave Bautista in it, The Watchers the following year, and of course now we got Trapped. So he's got more movies under his belt than just the ones I labeled out, especially with him acting in them. That was another thing too. A lot of his movies, he actually had a part playing in these movies, which is pretty cool. And he does have a part in the movie Trap, as well as his daughter. His daughter, if I can find her name here real quick for you guys. So his daughter, Salika, I'm hoping I pronounced that name right. It's Salika Knight Shyamalan. And she is an actual American R&B singer, songwriter, and actress. And this is actually her first movie, her first credit acting in her life. And she is only 28 years old. She has a CD out, apparently. She has a studio album that released last year. And she has a lot of singles. She has a lot of extended plays. So she's been pretty busy amongst the media. So now we got a movie that ties along with a trailer, where the trailer actually gave away a majority of the plot. Ain't that something? It's almost kind of rare for a movie studio to distribute a trailer for a movie that basically gives away the premise of what the movie is about. But this movie, M. Night Shyamalan, he always has a way of, I don't want to say shock audiences, but wow them. Wow audiences, with a certain premise, the way the plot is, and especially with adding twists within the movie. And I will say, with this movie, it does have a slight twist to it, but it's not something that knocks you on your feet, knocks you off your feet. It's nothing like that. It's just something where you're like, okay, I knew that was going to happen. I knew that's probably what it was and why this happened, So going off of the trailer, the premise basically is, Josh Hartnett's character, and his name is Cooper, and he takes his teenage daughter, Riley, to see this pop star, Lady Raven, who's played by Salika Shyamalan, take her to see this concert as a reward for her good grades. But when they get to the arena, he takes notice to the high police presence around the concert venue. So he's a little worried at this point in time. And he begins to, walk away from his daughter while his daughter's enjoying the concert, and he goes out and he explores around the venue, and he pulls aside one of the vendors, and he asks him what's going on. And the vendor is so down to earth cool, and he's like, please don't tell anybody, I'll get fired. And he pretty much explains that they got a tip that a serial killer known as the Butcher within their hometown was said to be at the concert that evening. So the FBI and the police, they have a trap set up to where if he's going to be there, they're going to surround the entire venue with police presence and check everybody as they're going out. Plus, they got an FBI profiler along with them who has studied this person's character and knows what to look for and how to look for them. So that's almost like basically the whole movie in a sense, I would have to say, is Josh Hartnett's character. Even though he learns this, even in the trailer, you find out that he himself is the serial killer known as the Butcher. And he plays it so cool throughout, I want to say, the first half of the movie. Now, I will say there may be some spoilers. I try not to do a lot of spoilers for you guys. But even so, if you have not seen this movie, like I always say, turn the review off, go watch the movie, and come back. So, for the first half of the movie, now the movie is just under 2 hours, I want to say. Just under 2 hours, I believe, yeah. And you would think, does this movie take place the entire 2 hours at this vendor? No, it doesn't. Only the first half of the movie is at the vendor, of course. Which, it kind of disappoints me a little bit, you know, like, I want to say there could have been probably just a little bit more added to it, a little bit more suspense added to it as to, okay, how's this guy going to manage to get out of the arena with his daughter without his daughter knowing who he is? And it just, everything takes just a turn every which way it can. And for Josh Hartnett's character, he is a very slick moving character throughout certain scenes where he knows how to get backstage, he knows how to talk to people, he knows how to remain calm, but in a way, his overall appearance and attitude, you know, he's probably going to slip up one point or another, but he actually manages to slip by the police and make his way out of the arena halfway into the movie, along with his daughter. Now, another character that runs alongside this couple throughout the rest of the movie is SHYMALAN's character, Lady Raven. As a spoiler, halfway through the movie, Josh Hartnett pulls her aside and informs her, yes, you caught me, I am the Butcher. But there's a catch to it. He basically uses her as a way of getting out of the arena and shows her that he does have somebody captive, and he shows her on his phone and says, look, all I gotta do is push a button to release a certain gas or whatever into that room and he's dead. So you can help me out of here, you'll save a life, or if you turn me in, his life is lost. So there is always these subtle little turns that make it even more intense. So it's like the first half of the movie, you're almost like on the edge of your seat for this character. You're like, okay, as a viewer, do you want to see him get caught? Or are you with him? Do you want to sympathize with this guy and say, oh, he's a serial killer. Let's see how he does this. You know, it's like it's like the whole movie plays out where I want to say you want to feel for him in a sense. You know, you're like, you want him to be able to get out of there with his daughter, and his daughter doesn't even really know that he's a serial killer. But they eventually make it out, and of course, Lady Raven, you know, that character, she ends up meeting this guy's family, and he has a family. He's a wife, he has a son also. They have a nice home and everything. But it's one of those movies where it turns out, you know, he's the kind of killer that has like two houses, basically. It's almost like the movie The Black Phone, where Ethan Hawke's character, you know, you always see him in this weird, creepy mask, but he has two separate houses, which are right across the street from each other, but that's not the case here. But I will say, like, the remainder of the film, the latter half of the film, you see Lady Raven, you know, trying to make her way, try to get away from this character. The family eventually finds out what's going on, but there's no one else who dies. There's no one else who is. This movie's rated PG-13, guys. It's a PG-13 movie, but however, nobody is really killed off. Or at least that I remember watching it. I don't remember really anybody being killed off. Maybe knocked out or whatever. but nobody's really killed off in this film. Now, the FBI, yes, they're hot on their trail. They know who they're looking for, and they end up finding him and chasing him throughout different scenes, especially certain scenes where they feel like they got him trapped, but he ends up subtly slipping out and away from them in a very slick way. So the character Cooper, it's like he's very sloppy with his presence. He's very sloppy with how he does things, but he's very slick with them too. It's like he gets himself into a situation, but then he knows how to slip out unnoticed, which is one thing I do like about this character. It makes him a likable character in this movie. Like, you know, he's the bad guy. You want to see him get caught. Somebody like me, it's like, okay, this is one of those movies where the roles are reversed. You're not cheering for the protagonist, you're cheering for the antagonist. That's like when you go to a Friday the 13th movie and you're chasing for Jason, you're cheering for Jason because Jason's killing off all these camp counselors in horrific ways. But there's a reason to it, you know? But with this movie, it's, you follow the antagonist, you feel for him, and everything gets more and more intense up until the latter, I want to say the last 10 minutes of the film, where a twist comes in as to how the police were tipped off and what happened that led up to it, basically. So I'm not going to give away the ending for you guys, but I will say this movie, it definitely has a good grasp on the viewer. It's something that's definitely a little bit more different than what you're used to seeing in a thriller like this, especially where, you know, usually later on you either find out who the antagonist is and why they're doing what they're doing. But in this case, M. Night Shyamalan, he does a good job with bringing the antagonist into the forefront and makes you, the viewer, almost really feel for this guy. Like, yes, he's holding somebody captive, and yes, he is considered the butcher, you know, he has killed several people, but yeah, he's at a concert with his daughter. His daughter is as happy as she can be, you know, and it's like the best night of her life, and he's trying to make it the best night of her life without getting caught. So he does everything he can to just up the ante for his daughter, just so they can get out of that situation, and they do, and they really do within the first half of the movie. But I will say, you know, minus the latter half of the film, where it kind of takes away the suspense from the first half of the movie that it was given. It's almost like now it turns into a hostage situation type movie where you know, okay, now the roles reversed. You really feel for this girl, and you're hoping she gets away. But then, you know, it's just one of those. It's a cat and mouse. Well, I don't want to say a cat and mouse game because it doesn't really feel like that. But there's just a lot of, you know, chasing here. There's a lot of running back and forth with these characters. Now, psychologically, with this movie, this character suffers from a lot of psychological issues where you do learn about it in the movie as to why he is the way he is. Just like when you study any serial killer in history, there's always some kind of form of mental abuse that happens to any serial killer as to why they're driven to do what they do. And in this case, in this movie, you do get a little bit of backstory as to why he is the way he is. But he ends up getting caught, of course. But then, you know, like I said, the ending is just something you have to see. So, what do I think about this movie, Trap? I feel like there was a lot of twists and turns. It was something that I did like, as, you know, Shyamalan pulled out a role reversal in this movie, and he did it very well, to where you're cheering, you know, you're really feeling for, and you're not quite cheering on the antagonist, but you're like, man, I hope he gets out of there, you know, I hope he makes it out, you know, not just for the sake of, you know, him, but, you know, he's getting his child out of there as well, you know. So the whole role reversal for this film I think it's pulled off pretty well, but then, like I said, in the latter half of the movie, it starts to fall apart just a little bit. It comes unraveled, and it's just a lot of back and forth within the last half of the movie. You know, they're like I said, with a lot of back and forth. You got a guy that's constantly on the run within the same town, and he's got the police constantly on him, and they all know where he's at and such. So even though there are like minor threats to, okay, I'm going to kill this person, I'm going to kill that person, nothing ever really happens, you know. In fact, if it was like toned down a little bit, this probably could have been a PG movie, you know. But then again, PG movies, you don't hear about serial killers, you know, you really don't. Usually PG-13 movies, you don't really hear too much about them, but they managed to pull it off. And the acting in this movie, I will say, it definitely goes to Josh Hartnett, who really pulled it off being a villain in this movie. And I don't think there's too many films under his belt where he does play the villain, but he does it pretty well, and he's very underrated with it in this movie right here. And all the other actors in there, they're I want to say they're kind of mediocre, but they do fill the void with it. And like I said, everything just falls into place how it really does. You know, the story was really good, you know, and like I said, when it gets to the second half of the movie, it's just where everything kind of starts to trickle off a little bit, and it has a little downplayed tone to it. And then it tries to pick it back up. But I just want to say, for this film, the better half of the movie is probably the first half of the whole movie. Just the first half of the movie is just the big dead giveaway. You know, just the big portion of it. That is probably the best portion of the movie right there. Just like if you watch a movie like Full Metal Jacket. Everybody remembers Full Metal Jacket for the first half of the movie, which is the boot camp. The second half is where the soldiers are actually going to war in Vietnam and fight a couple fights here or there. That's about it. But when it comes to a movie like that, you pretty much watch it for the first half of the movie because it's so good. It's so upbeat, you know. It's the most entertaining and enjoyable part of the movie and the most memorable. And I think that's what happens with this movie here is M. Night Shyamalan has a way where the first half of the movie is just like that. It's very memorable. It's on the edge of your seat. And it's something that I think a lot of audiences will like for what it is. And I think my rating for this movie is going to be a solid 7 out of 10. I would have bumped it to an 8 out of 10, but like I said, there's just some things in the movie that, without even spoiling it, that just kind of fell apart for me in the end, to where I kind of had mixed feelings about it. Like, I like it, but then it's like, I don't hate it, and I don't not like it. It's so-so. It's one of those movies where I feel like I could probably watch it again, but I think just the first half of the movie steals the show for them. So, if you guys saw this movie, what did you guys think of Trap? Let us know down in the comments section below what you thought of this movie. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you think Josh Hartnett is an amazing actor? Do you think M. Night Shyamalan should make more films like this? Anything. Let us know down below your comments and feelings. And that pretty much does it for today's episode of Cinemacast, guys. I do like to thank you guys for watching, checking out today's feature and all. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on your way out the door if you guys enjoyed today's episode of Cinemacast and our other content as well here on YouTube. Also, if you guys watch game streams and podcasts on platforms like Twitch and Kick, links for those are down below, as well as the link for our Discord server. You guys can hop in there anytime you like, join in on the fun, get updates on future streams and uploads and such. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and end it. Thank you guys for joining us today for today's feature, which was Trap. And until next time, guys, we'll see you right back here at the cinema.